Music has been my background since I was 10 years old. I chose to play the trumpet and go through school and play and sing and dance and have a good time with the creative arts. And when I came to Ananda, Palo Alto in 1988, which was when I met Swami Kriyananda, I was very interested in the music. I showed up first at a World Brotherhood Day celebration in Menlo Park, and interestingly, no one had showed up to help with the lunch. And so my friend and I served and helped make the lunch and serve there, and I met Kriyananda at that time and knew I had found a very inspiring place and group of people. And in that year, or maybe the next year, Swami did an oratorio, Christ Lives, in Menlo Park. And I got there and I was by myself and I was really taking it all in. I loved being there and hearing this music. I'd never heard anything like it before. And the performance, interestingly, didn't go so well. It was just one of those nights when the mics didn't work. The trumpet player who played the opening piece, the piece just didn't work for him, and Swami's cues for his solos, and he was singing in the bass section, were difficult because of the technical difficulties. But I could hear the music, and more, I could feel it. There was something different, and I was very, very interested and intrigued by Swami and by the people who were there and by the message of the music. And so my theme today is, where does the music come from? And I'll talk about this as we go along. It's very profound and it's mystical as well as in this world. Where's the music and where does it come from? And I came to Ananda Village to be in the monastic training program in the 1989 through 1990. And so spanning those 2 years, but I was here for just a year at Ananda Village. And even while taking classes and doing karma yoga it was called the monastic training program, and it's now called living discipleship. And I had plenty of free time. And so what I decided to do, since I was so interested in all of Swami's music, we relied on sheet music back in those days. And so we had what was called the big book. And so the big book was about that thick. It was quite voluminous, probably 300 plus pieces of music. And so my trumpet major came in handy. So I just got the trumpet out and played all of them. I made that a project. I wanted to hear what was in the solos, everything from foreign countries to deep spiritual truths and very philosophical. In fact, Swami called the music he wrote Philosophy and Song, and that's the name of one of the albums that we have. And he also said, if you want to know me, meaning his consciousness, listen to my music. And by extension, you can say play the music or mentally play the music inside if you don't sing. But just go deep into Swamiji's music for yourself. And that's what I did when I first came to Ananda Village. And so I was also able to sing in choir a few times that year, not much because of being in the program. But it was wonderful to stand by other members who'd been at Ananda for a while and feel the vibration of their singing. It wasn't only technically what was going on, it was what was behind that I was interested in. And so I basically emulated the voices of the women that I would stand by and sing with, so that I got the feeling, even if I didn't have the feeling or I didn't understand the feeling and meaning of a song. I got there by and by just singing and going over and over the pieces, which we did a lot. We rehearsed a lot in those days. And so it was very instructive for me and valuable in my experience here. And then after a year, I took yoga teacher training at the end, and then I went back to Palo Alto to resume my responsibilities in the yoga program there, and then dive deep into the music with our directors there and the many performances we're going to talk about here. And that was in 1990. And then in 92, in Palo Alto, we had a performance of the oratorio. We rented the Mountain View Center for the Performing Arts. It's a big place, and so the hall was a 300-seat theater, and a beautiful place, still is, still in operation there. And there was a 70-piece choir with people from communities all over. And Swami came, and he was able to sing, and he sang in the bass section, and he sang solos as well. So it was a wonderful opportunity to sing the oratorio for the first time, and with Swami Kriyananda there. And I wanted to tell you how Swami prayed before we did that performance. And this is from Asha Nayaswami's book, The Light Bearer. She recorded many things throughout the years, and this is one of them. He prayed before the performance, "Let us pray for the audience." And so we did. Let us pray for the audience that they may be filled with divine joy, and through this music come to know the living Christ within. And then he also prayed, and this really impressed me, "Lord, let us give this audience what they need, not what we think they need." And that, again, impressed me very, very deeply. And later Swamiji remarked, this is in the book Light Bearer also, it's natural for singers, especially that group in Palo Alto, who were not professionals, to feel nervous before such a big performance. And I wanted to turn their attention away from themselves and toward the thought of serving those who come. And so that was a hallmark in my time with the music. And I was certainly very nervous because I had the trumpet there and I was to play the opening song, Setting Out for Zion. And what was happening for me was Swamiji was backstage, and so was I, and I was pacing back and forth, just focusing on the notes of that song. It's a short song, about a minute and a few seconds, but it's an important song because it's at the beginning. And so I'm pacing back and forth, and what is Swamiji doing? He had his eyes closed and he was meditating. And I very well knew he was meditating for me. He was meditating for everyone. But I just couldn't help myself with the jitters before the performance. And I knew when I saw him like that I wanted to be like that. I wanted to have that calm center that he has. And so that's what I've been working at for the last decades. And so I didn't play perfectly. It didn't go perfectly. That was just what happened. But then the music after that just flowed. It was just really a flow of music, and everyone who was there singing from, as I mentioned, other places from Ananda, and we all came together perfectly, and it was such a positive experience. The audience in Mountain View was so receptive. Of course, a lot of people from Ananda, but many not. And it was just such a valuable experience to be there with Swami singing, and all of us trying so hard to interpret the music as he would have us do. And as he said in the beginning prayer, it depends on our thought of service for those who came, which was a valuable lesson. And along those lines, Yogananda once sang for the Mormon Tabernacle Choir. They invited him. And after the performance, they asked Yogananda, "How did you like it?" And he said some comments that were more toward the technical aspects or the precision of the music, and that was complimentary. But then people probed him for more. They wanted more of how he really thought it was. And so he said, "Well, if you really want to know, you were singing for me, the people in the choir, singing for me and not for God." And so that's another attitude that is paramount in our singing of the spiritual music, and that is we are thinking of God while we're singing instead of ourselves. And then years later, in one of the concerts in the Ananda Village amphitheater, the concert was over, and I had had an experience in meditation about playing that trumpet piece, and he knew over the years what a challenge it had been, and we even joked about it. There was a thought by one of the directors, there was a curse on the song and the start of the oratorio, and we all joked about that, but that wasn't the case really. It was just circumstances. And so in this insight that I had, I thought of that song that's called Setting Out for Zion, and words came. And I said to Swami, I said, words, may I sing the words for you? And he nodded. And I sang, God is the doer, I love you. God is the doer, I love you. And those words go throughout the whole song. And even in years after that, I would ask choir members while I was playing that song to mentally sing those words. And all Swami said to me after I sang the words to him was very good. And that was his response. And so that was another a big moment in the music for me, is that was the right idea, and I could go forward. And so where does the music come from? Later, Swamiji wrote recitatives for the oratorio. Before I think I mentioned before, is that there was a narrative of all the places Swamiji visited in the Holy Land, and he had written out the feeling in those places and the teachings, quotes from the Bible, and so on. And then at this performance of the recitatives, the very first time that it was performed, Swami leaned over to Asha and he said this. He said, "Every note is the way I heard it. I didn't create it. I just wrote it down." And so that was a very beautiful thought. And he had thought, instead of the narratives, to have the recitatives, because that is those thoughts are in music, and so there's no break between written word and spoken word in the oratorio, meaning the narrative and the songs. And Swami said later too that kind of you were always thinking, when it was only the narration, is like, when is the song going to start? So anyway, that is the beautiful flow that we have now in the oratorio is just wonderful for the encapsulating the life of Christ and bringing it inwardly to yourself while you're in listening to the oratorio. And then in 1993, Swami wrote another hallmark piece, really. I feel that the oratorio is one of the highest expressions of the teachings, complete with the life of Christ. And then this other song is also very deep, and he explains it came from the ether, and it was first called Life Mantra, and then it was called Chant of the Angels, and then it was changed back. Swami changed it back, and the final name of it is Life Mantra. And he says, "I was so inspired to write this music while musing on the topic of choirs of angels. Suddenly, words and music came pouring over me like a waterfall of sound. The work came effortlessly. I wrote it down in one day. The only editorial I made was later to extend the duration of a single chord from 1 measure to 2 measures. And he said, while writing Chant of the Angels, he called it then, I was thrillingly aware of angelic presences guiding and blessing my labor. And so I have a story to tell you of how we later prepared that song. It was written, and then time passed, and we couldn't learn it. Everyone was busy, and so I think Jeannie or Agni, one of the choir directors here, called me in Palo Alto and said, could you please do parts tapes for Life Mantra, and then have a group get together and practice it and record it? And we were really busy, but I said yes. And I did that. I made the parts tapes, and then we would get together. It was a small group, maybe 6 or 7 people, and we were in one of the apartments in the evening, practicing life mantra. And it's a very complex piece, actually, musically, meaning there are a lot of things going on all at once. And so we practiced and practiced. It was one of those slogging rehearsals where you had to have the piano. A friend of ours was playing the piano for us. She would play it for the sopranos. We would go over it and we would think we got it, and then play for the altos. And then when you put the sopranos and altos together, we need to go back, and that way with the tenors and basses too. So it was, I would call it a slogging rehearsal. And we really worked hard, but what did we accomplish? We got a little closer to putting the parts together, I guess. And so that was the best we could do. And so we ended the practices with usually holding hands and chanting Om together to end the rehearsal, which we were doing. We did that, and holding hands and out loud we chanted Om together. And then when we ended the Om, I said to the others, "Did you hear it?" And a couple of other people heard it too. What happened was the words and the music kept going. It was being sung. And so it was being sung by the angels. That was the only thought we could think in the moment. Life is a mission from on high. Life is the quest for inner joy. And that's what we heard. And so what a confirmation. Swami was just really taken by what happened. And so it was a confirmation from all of us that that's where the music comes from, and that's where we sing it from, we learn it, and we try to learn it as best we can as Swami heard it. That's a really good point to keep in mind, is that that's what we strive for. And it was a wonderful experience for us, for Swami, and that piece is a very deep piece. And I know people who have meditated with that music from Life Mantra, and so it's a wonderful piece for all of us. And so Swami once said of one of the musicians in Palo Alto, his name is Todd Billingsley, who is a fantastic piano player, and he played in Carnegie Hall, very accomplished. But what he said of Todd is that it's impressive what he's done with Ananda Music, he said, because he's made it his own. And so that's one of the main things in the music too, is to open yourself to it, whether you're listening or singing, and then do your best to express it or to listen to the expression you're hearing and become the truth and joy of the piece and convey that to others, which is what our choirs always try to do. And in 1994 or thereabouts, I directed the Palo Alto Choir for a time, and Swamiji came to one of the concerts for the oratorio, and we did the whole oratorio with Swamiji there. He sang solos that night, and it was just a glorious experience for me to be able to conduct the choir and feel I was doing it for God and for Swamiji too, that we could all be there together like family, and we knew he was praying for us, and the bond is there as it always has been, even now when he's not in the body, and even more so. And so I hold that high in my feeling of just going deep into the music here at Ananda in directing the choir, because it's a very humble place to be, because it's not like you're directing 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 like this and keeping the time for everyone. No, it's responding to what's already happening. The music is already there. It's already in the ether, so to speak, and it's coming through each one of the musicians as they sing the song. And so what it is it's a mutual participation. And so it's a wonderful lesson in how the music is for everyone, the listener, the singer. It's just there for everyone, and it always existed. That's a very, very profound thing, and it's always been inspiring and different every time we sing. And so that's with every choir in every place too. And so then in 1996, the oratorio recitatives were coming out, and there were 22 new pieces. And so the last of the new pieces were being faxed almost at the time the concert started. But it was, Swami knew that the singers who were doing it could handle that, and we performed it with only the 4 soloists sitting off to the side by themselves, and the whole choir was in the middle. And so that was the way we did it. Swami expressed that way is a good way, because then you're focused. The soloists don't have to move. They're just right there. And they sang wonderfully, as they even were sort of sight reading some of the music that was there. But it went off wonderfully. And it was a great experience. And so that was a wonderful time for us all in the music too. And then Swamiji wrote many, many albums, and one of them that I was involved with was Secrets of Love in 1997. He composed it, but then it didn't get mastered in the music studio until 2000. And that's a little story. We were asked to move to the village in 2000. My husband Paalaka and myself were invited to come up so that I could work in Swamiji's music studio in Crystal Hermitage and learn to edit his voice, and in time learn to edit his music and help in the music studio. And interestingly, Paalaka and I weren't thinking of moving to Ananda Village, but and there were some reservations. Paalaka actually, he told me, he knew it would be a disaster in my case because of the technical aspects of the music studio. But we went ahead because I asked the person who asked me if we could move up there. I said, well, couldn't you ask someone else? And he said, no. He said, I already did, and no one else could come. And so I said, okay, how about this? You ask Swami what he thinks of us coming and me working in the music studio. And so he did. And Swami's answer was yes, that would be a good idea. And I think it was just divine providence that he knew of, that here I am, decades later, doing the archive music of his. And so I came and tried hard for a year and learned to edit Swami's voice, but then it ended with someone else taking over in the studio eventually, because that was what happened to me. I just couldn't do everything, like fix all of the machines. But it was such a wonderful experience, and we were doing Secrets of Love. And he would come in every day, Swamiji would, and he had such detail orientation of like this phrase and that phrase, and let's not have the oboe here, or let's have the violin over here. And so he worked with the music team in the studio so closely. Every note had consciousness behind it, and it had the energy of making it the best of what it could be. And again, it was what Swamiji had heard. And that was his motivation in writing the music to begin with, was to write what he had heard and write it in a way that was as close to that as possible. And then, then that same year, we moved up to the village. We also traveled with a choir of about 50 people, I think, from America and Europe. Together, we went to Assisi to do a choir tour throughout Italy, and Swamiji was there, of course, and he was with us in the places that he could travel to. And so we sang with him for most of the 6 performances we did. Very profound experience. It was and profound also because the Italian people received it so openly. The oratorio was just what they could feel and see and experience, the life of Christ. And one woman said to a choir member, she said, "You sing so beautifully together, you must rehearse all the time." And her answer was, we hardly rehearsed at all. We just came together for this tour. And later, Swamiji corrected her in saying that, to say choirs have to rehearse long hours in order to get in tune with each other. Our rehearsal is our meditation that we all do. I would say, truer to say, we spend a lot of time in rehearsal in our meditations before coming together to sing. And then another story for another place that we were with the oratorio there in Italy. We were singing it in English because most of the people were from America and we needed to sing it in English. But after one of the performances, a Frenchman came to Swamiji and said in French, "I don't speak a word of English, but I understood the meaning of every song." And after the tour, Swamiji said, "I don't feel personally identified as a composer of this music, even though I was introduced that way at the performances. But there must be some identification, for I felt so deeply gratified to see it performed so beautifully and with so much devotion." And that it was. It was sung with complete devotion, maybe not every note correct or every cue right on the mark, but we did it with devotion. And that's what people felt in Italy and in all of the performances I think we've done anywhere. And the Pope, they played for the Pope back in the beginning with Ananda Music, and the Pope was very impressed with the music that he heard. And then on to the years I've been with Ananda, 2001 until now. It's been 2 decades of working so closely in the music ministry with the others who we find such joy together when we practice, when we sing for Sunday service, when we have special performances, because we're all in it for the same reason. We have the same motivation, and that is to serve. We really intend to serve others to the best of our ability. And we just do the best we can, and the results are amazing. Even people who haven't sung much can really feel the vibration, and the other singers who have sung it many, many times, and that kind of melts all together. And so it comes out to be a beautiful performance every single time for different reasons, and it's different every time. And it's so, I can say it over and over and over, it's just a privilege to be part of it, and inviting you to be a part of it too, at whatever level you'd like to be. And it's just such a meditation groups all over in America have expressed their appreciation for the music. My husband Paalaka and I have gone throughout America to different groups, literally coast to coast, and just been with people who so appreciate Swami and all of the singers who have been doing this music over the years. And it was just wonderful. And in the Treasures Along the Path, which I still coordinate, we find that the music was done in all the years with Swami's tours, the Joy tours, the Super Conscious Living tours, all of them, that he sang or played music before every single one. And maybe not necessarily him or the Gandharva singers, other singers, but to do that, to introduce the lecture with the music, because it puts everybody in a similar vibration and an open vibration. Even chanting, "Oh, door of my heart," things like that. We're opening to people's consciousness before they would hear the teachings, as Swamiji lectured throughout the world. And he often said that the music speaks for itself. It just speaks for itself, and you can hear it there. And I would like to just beckon those who would like to sing or play the music to do so, because even if you don't feel worthy, the feeling is that you will gain so much spiritually, and the people who hear you will gain spiritually too. And a friend of mine in Palo Alto, one of the school teachers there, said, "If you can walk, you can dance. if you can talk, you can sing. And sometimes because of shyness or even maybe a traumatic experience you've had with music another time and place, that it might be too hard to sing, but just go through that and just say, I can sing and I can be a part of this music. And it just is a wonderful, wonderful feeling to do that. And you'll be surprised at what can happen and what can unfold for you and how it can benefit everyone who hears you. And then it's just for everyone, and also for those who do the music publicly. It's such an invitation. Swami said, every note is the way I heard it. I didn't create it. I just wrote it down. And what glory that is to be part of that energy and just feel that you can really do it. And it's right for us to learn the music as thoroughly as we can with the words and the rhythm and so on. But what we really are looking for is that behind the music, what's there? Where does the music come from? And so we can do that. And Jeannie Shantz and many others in the singing groups have met with Swami over the years and asked questions and had answers about, how would we do this piece, or how would you like to hear this done? And he would answer, and it would be he was very, very grateful for everyone who was training in the music and who really wanted to do it as close to the way he heard it as possible. He was so grateful for that. And so it's something we can all be a part of. And I even asked Swamiji once if I should correct someone who was singing an incorrect rhythm. And he said very quickly, and he said it emphatically, he said, I would want you to correct me. And what he was just revealing is that we just were all wanting the music itself to be what comes through. And doing that together. And so we're all part of that energy. And like it was with Life Mantra, when the song kept singing itself, that's really where the music comes from. And that's how we can proceed with our music. And like it says in the Festival of Light, it all comes from Om. Out of the silence came the song of creation. Out of the darkness came the light. Out of the darkness and out of the silence thunders the cosmic sound, Om. And so listen to Swami's talks and listen to Swami's music and make it your own. Experience it for yourself. Get the albums and have them at easy access for yourself. And really, it can change your mood. It can change your emotions. There's even studies, a few of the members have gone into really what songs are for what emotions and what can help you. And I beckon you to look into this music in that way and find prescriptions for yourself for ways to lift your energy and be part of it. And your efforts to experience and go deep in the music can help you and can help the whole world. Joy to you.